Well now, looks like I have me a little bit of splaining to do after that little rant last night. Granted, I must say that my rant on server queues and the Warlords of Draenor launch was very much quite tame compared to some of the other stuff I've heard. I've heard far more rambunctious and colorful language being thrown around in some of the videos on YouTube that I wound up sharing on Twitter. But it looks like I should probably put up or shut up on this issue of server queues once and for all. I've said both here and on Twitter that server queues don't need to exist. And it's about time I really explained why it is that I believe that the continued existence of server queues in World of Warcraft basically mean that Blizzard just wants to put up with them at this point. Blizzard has more than the tools that they need to make server queues a thing of the past. The question is, will they ever do so? Now, the idea that I'm going to be talking about in this audio commentary is something that I've brought up on their forums before, and one that others have brought up on their forums before. And basically what has happened is the responses have been anywhere from no response to neutral to aggressive. Unfortunately, there was one blue, I believe it was Tokrilis, or how you say that name, on the EU forums, who actually negatively responded to this idea, and in a very knee-jerk manner as well. I mean, you can tell from the response that you only listened to like half the argument at most, and then just knee-jerked that it wouldn't work. And that's really the problem with Blizzard. The whole celebrity game developer thing with them is really out of hand. They really need to knock that off, because as we've seen with the subscription numbers slowly dwindling over the past 2 expansions, World of Warcraft is not invincible, and neither is Blizzard. They can get bad press, they can bungle a launch, they can have a Diablo 3 moment, so to speak, and they can't go around thinking that they can rest on their laurels, or continue wagging their finger at their paying customer player base. I mean, we're not talking about a bunch of single-player game owners who plopped $60 on a AAA title and don't like the game. We're talking about people who are continuously paying into the system with the subscription fee and all the associated pseudo-microtransactions like character transfers and other services that they've offered on Battle.net. So, really, this nonsense needs to stop. I mean, the whole finger wagging, we know more than you, and the only evidence you have is anecdotal, therefore it's invalid. This needs to stop. In particular, Celes Talon, or however you say that name, Celestalon or whatnot, has picked up where Ghostcrawler left off in terms of the arrogant, I'm better than you attitude towards players on the forums. The cliff notes of which make their way over onto MMO Champion in their blue tracker, and I have not been happy with what I've been reading. But that's beside the point. Let's talk about why server queues don't need to exist. Why do I hold to this issue, to this idea that the only reason server queues still exist is because Blizzard continues to let them exist? Now, some conspiracy theorists might say that Blizzard lets queues continue to exist, that way people will pay for character transfers and stuff like that, but I'd rather not mess with any tinfoil head stuff tonight. I just want to talk about why server queues don't need to exist, and why do I go around with this kind of belief / conviction / whatever about this issue. First and foremost, tonight's server queue is brought to you by my old stomping grounds, Stormrage US, which just shows that last night we had Tichondrius like 130 minutes with 5,000 people or something, and here's Stormrage at 2350, and I screenshotted it when it said that I had an estimated wait time of 98 minutes, which just goes to show that sometimes the number doesn't matter as much as that estimated time. So, yay, hour and a half queues into Stormrage. Whoopity freaking do. I am so glad I got away from that stuff, and I encourage others to do likewise. So, server queues. Why are they a problem? I think, before you can talk about solutions to a problem, we need to define the problem itself. And yeah, I actually do have notes for this, so I'll probably try and stay somewhat organized and not ramble as much. Anyhow, why are server queues a problem? Number one, they're annoying. You've already paid upfront and are paying monthly, but now you have to wait to play a game that you've essentially lost money on twice already. So yeah, it's annoying. That's the most obvious thing. You want to play a game in the evening. Oh shoot, you're gonna have to wait an hour before you can start playing it. Another thing, too, is that server queues date World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft is considered by many, myself included, to be what's called a second-gen MMO. It improved over the grindiness of the first-gen MMOs like EverQuest and stuff, but lacks some of the advanced features of the third-gen MMOs like Guild Wars 2. And I honestly don't think, despite World of Warcraft's age turning 10 this year, turning 10 this month actually, despite World of Warcraft's age as a piece of software, that it doesn't need to be as dated as it is. And Blizzard has already, numerous times, basically made Warcraft equivalents of compelling features in competing games that have popped over the years. You know all those WoW killers that were supposed to kill WoW? Yeah, well, there have been instances after instances after instances where stuff popped up in World of Warcraft that was an obvious response to compelling features in other games. That can be a subject of a completely different discussion, but we want to try and keep things on subject tonight, so we'll save that one for later. So server queues date this game. The system is a dead ringer for early 2000s FilePlanet. Those of you who may remember that website back in those days, for pretty much the same reasons as Blizzard. They put queues on their downloads. It was a download site for shareware and other stuff, but if you were looking to download a piece of shareware or something and the download link took you to FilePlanet, you groaned like crazy, because that would mean you'd probably wait in line for like a half hour to download something that takes like a minute to download over broadband. It was really pitiful. The website is no more. FilePlanet got bought out by IGN and basically buried. You go over there now, it says FilePlanet is no longer being updated and is in the process of being archived. Yeah, good riddance. So you can imagine what it must have felt like for a tech geek like me to see that this very same technology is alive and well in World of Warcraft, one of the most popular online RPGs of all time, the most successful second-gen MMO and subscription MMO. So why can't they move beyond this is my question. Another reason why server queues date the game is because competing games like Guild Wars 2 are designed to not need queues. Guild Wars 2 uses overflow realms, and I don't even know if they have realms per se anymore or even need them, because they moved to a super shard architecture where everything's all together. And kind of similar to Elder Scrolls Online. I don't really have time to go into the technical details of it, but I've really enjoyed Guild Wars 2 since this technology went live, and if there is an issue at traffic, there's always overflow realms and other technology. Bottom line, I have never experienced anything resembling a queue with Guild Wars 2. The only issues I've had have been issues related to the login system. When the login system crashed, you couldn't log into the game. But it's either a yes-no thing. With Guild Wars 2, either you can get into the game or you can't. There is no waiting in line for an hour like this. You just try again later or play something else if the login system is down. Simple. As opposed to this FilePlanet-esque queue system. Alright, so another problem with server queues is that in terms of load balancing and copying Guild Wars 2, the heavier use of instancing technology to solve the recent Draenor problems that the admins have been bragging about on the forums and MMO Champions Blue Tracker somewhat resembles Guild Wars' system of load balancing. Load balancing, for those of you who haven't been involved in IT before, is when you have similar pieces of hardware, and to make it so that the wear and tear is spread evenly across the hardware, you try and spread the workload across the hardware too. Like if you run a bunch of printers and you have a print server directing the jobs to various printers, to keep everything balanced so you don't blow out one printer long before the other, since you spent money for all of them. So load balancing is a term you hear in IT, and when you're talking about hardware and what hardware does, and when you have unbalanced hardware, it's pretty much considered a bad IT practice in many cases. Now, the biggest reason, though, why I have a problem with server queues is because Blizzard's existing technology could make them a thing of the past. The question is Blizzard ever going to act on this idea that's been floated in their forums a few times and hasn't gotten much of a positive response, if any response at all? So the question asked here is, what is the root cause of server queues? Why do we have server queues? You could say it's because, certain realms are overpopulated. In other words, blame the players. But that's a form of blaming the victim, because the players just want to play the game. And they may have certain preferences on where they play the game, but if you blame the players, you miss the root cause and end up blaming the victim instead. Actually, it is the system, stupid, as the cliche would go. High population servers ultimately are the source of this problem. This is where all the queues take place, and then when people can't get into their servers and they roll alts to congest other servers, like what happened during the launch weekend of Warlords, when all these people from all these high pop realms were flooding onto lower pop realms and creating boosted alts and basically causing queues on medium pop servers in addition to the reduced capacity. And with all this stuff that took place this weekend, yeah, it's pretty much plain as day to see that high pop servers are the source of this problem. High pop realms amplify many of the better parts of MMOs that make them shine versus single-player RPGs. A high pop realm will give you more social connections, guilds, raiding, PvP opportunities, etc., a more robust in-game economy, and an auction house. Negative social issues are also amplified, such as mob farming and people crowding the heck out of the Timeless Isle, like that video I made back in Mists of Pandaria for Play Some Stuff a while back. But for the most part, the pros of a high pop server outweigh the cons. Because of this, high pop servers have an appeal, and they draw people to them even after and while anything like free character moves are being offered. So moving people around servers has traditionally been Blizzard's attempt to solve these population issues, such as free character moves and stuff like that. But the problem with moving people around servers is that it will never ultimately address the root cause of the problem, which is that high pop realms have any kind of appeal to begin with. People prefer high pop realms in large numbers, and this causes problems for the entire rest of the game, as I've demonstrated. If you dismantle the appeal of the high pop realms, you'll dismantle this problem of server queues as well. So the next question that one would logically ask is, why don't Blizzard's current systems of managing server population ultimately work? They're never more than a band-aid or a temporary fix. Why is it that the current methods that Blizzard deploys in order to manage server populations don't end up ultimately working? First, let's talk about FCMs, or free character moves, which is something that will come up every so often. Every so often, Blizzard will offer free character transfers to balance out realms. I took the last one from Stormrage to Turalyon, which is why I am happily playing Warlords of Draenor with no queues tonight. Although I did take the hit going from high pop to medium pop server. The auction house on Turalyon is nothing compared to Stormrage, and that did cause progression problems for me at the end of Mists of Pandaria, particularly with raid weapons, where I could pretty much take my pick of the litter of item level 500 something purples on Stormrage off the auction house to get started with raiding, not so much on Turalyon except at really high prices because of the lack of competition due to the smaller server. So free character moves are usually a way of addressing population imbalances, but they tend not to work because they usually are a temporary fix at best. As we saw with Stormrage, during my years on Stormrage, the server whose screenshot is tonight's screenie of choice for this audio segment, during my years on Stormrage, there were multiple sets of FCMs. I finally took one after about 3 or 4. Why? Because I figured people would be sick of the server and they'd want to leave. And so I lucked out most of the time and didn't see queues very often. And it was fun playing on a high pop server with no queues except when there were major content releases. But finally, the queues last go round were just ridiculous. I did a video about it and eventually transferred off with some FCMs. Now, I've just given some examples of why FCMs don't work. They don't work, and they're never more than a temporary fix. Number one, because of the appeal of high pop servers. Even if you transfer a bunch of people off, high pop servers remain appealing and people will try to paid character move to them. Stormrage, before I left, acquired the Vodka Guild, who moved over there because they wanted to be there. And lots of other cool stuff like that related to high pop servers and the mess they can be. FCMs don't work in addition to that because people don't want them. People, first and foremost, players tend to wait until a queue situation arises before complaining, which eliminates the ability for Blizzard to preempt a rush of traffic on major content releases. So FCMs cannot be used to prevent queues because people don't take them until there's an actual problem. So in the case of Warlords, with all these players buying the game, coming back, etc., even if there were FCMs available before the launch, when there weren't any queues on the high pop servers, you basically couldn't, you wouldn't be able to count on players taking them. Players also don't want to give up what they have on their existing high pop realm if they have vested interest in staying there, like a more robust auction house, their guild, their friends, the server's raid progression versus other servers, etc. And so because of this, which is a direct result of the appeal of high pop realms, free character moves can never be anything more than a temporary band-aid fix at best. So ultimately, FCMs don't work. Ultimately, FCMs don't work, and worst off, they represent lost revenue for Blizzard because people are moving for free instead of paying the paid transfer fees in order to do so. Also, the moving characters on hardware for free, whatever that costs in terms of infrastructure costs, server load, and all that stuff that the bean counter types who do the math on and the money side of running servers would be glad to tell you, but I don't feel like boring you with that stuff. So we know that free character moves don't work. They ultimately don't in the long run because of the appeal of high pop servers. So what about Blizzard's alternative to high pop servers, namely Connected Realms technology, which evolved out of cross-realm zones technology and allows clusters of smaller servers to behave as a larger server de facto. Even though it's a bunch of servers, they're all seamlessly linked up with the technology. Theoretically, connected realm clusters should be attracting people away from the high pop realms by offering a best of both worlds situation when it comes to server size. There should be a lack of queues due to lower server populations and the equivalent of a bigger server without an actual bigger server. Another thing that connected realm clusters offer for altaholics like myself is a de facto increase in the number of alts per realm, because you can just spread your characters across servers in the cluster and they act as though they're together. They have to join. I think they can join the same guilds too. Seamless integration here. So basically, let's say you really like druids and paladins and hybrid classes, and you want to have literally a character that can play every single spec in the game. And of course, there's no tri-spec or anything. So what you can do, and I mean, not just like every single spec, but every single spec for PvE and PvP. If you want to be an altaholic, if you want to be an absolute altaholic nut and have that many characters that you switch between, you're in better shape to do such altaholism type stuff on a Connected Realms cluster. Now, the issue here is that we know that this doesn't work because high pop servers should be gone by now. If this really was that attractive to that large of a percentage of the player base, high pop servers should be a thing of the past along with the server queues and other issues that they bring. So the continued existence of high pop realms ultimately means that either wide swaths of the player base are woefully misinformed about the benefits of connected realm clusters, or that the benefits of a high pop realm still outweigh the benefits of a connected realm cluster. I vouch for the former, that the benefits of high pop realms still are more appealing than a connected realm cluster. Because of the numerous appeals of the high pop realms we've mentioned earlier, the goal of a connected realm cluster, which right now is basically to create a medium pop equivalent out of the low pop realms, should be the equivalent of a high pop realm rather than a low pop realm. It's the high pop realms that are attracting the players, causing the queues, causing the QQs. That's internet-ese for crying on the WoW forums, for those of you who don't speak Blizzardese or whatever. It causes all these issues, and, yes, that's the thing. Besides numerous appeals of high pop realms, the goal should be to emulate a high pop realm, because that's what's attracting people and causing all of these problems. So, we've spent nearly 20 minutes talking about the problem. What is this solution that I would do? What has been brought up on the forums to negative response? If I were in charge of Blizzard, the way I would fix this issue with this somewhat misdeployed technology, and I use that term very tongue-in-cheek because it's achieved some of what it's supposed to do, but queues still exist and realm balance issues still exist. So anyways, meanwhile, other MMOs are moving towards more like what Elder Scrolls Online and Guild Wars 2 have, so not good for Blizzard to be so dated like this, to have servers still be a thing. But if I were in charge of Blizzard, the way I would fix this is by using the Connected Realms technology and the free character moves together to realm connect a high realm to a low realm, and then FCM from high to low until the populations balance out. this would negate many of the common reasons why players don't want to leave high pop realms via FCMs, which could then lead to more people taking the transfers and evening out the populations because there's nothing to lose on their end. A connected realm in this case would retain the benefits of the high server, get rid of the negatives of the low server by filling it up, and then if the resulting cluster had two servers that were too populated, you could just bring in another low realm. Just if the realm cluster's individual realms got too big, just keep adding small realms and keep repeating this process until everything is smoothed out. The net effect of this, instead of FCMs being a temporary band-aid and connected realms taking lows and making them like a medium, which still isn't as attractive compared to a high to a lot of players, the net effect of this ultimately would be realm clusters being medium in terms of server load, or should I say realm servers being medium in terms of server load in their clusters, but with all the benefits of high pop realms without much, if any, of the drawbacks. So that's really it. Which makes me wonder why Blizzard doesn't do this. And this is my challenge to Blizzard. If this is a bad idea, please go into details when you rebut this. Please do some kind of rebuttal, because I haven't been the only one who has brought up this idea before. There have been others who've tossed this idea around, and there's either been no response, a neutral response, or a negative response. If we're missing something here, we need to know what we're missing. Because, quite frankly, with what's been going on, with all the server queues and all the scrambling that they've had to do, when they already have the technology to make this problem stop happening and have it be an event if there's ever a queue at all anywhere in the entire system, not to mention spread out the volume and better load balance all the realms, you've got all of these benefits. My question is, why hasn't this happened yet? Have they considered this idea in their ivory tower over there at Blizzard? If so, why haven't they deployed it? What's the bad thing about this that makes this unfeasible? That's my question. What about, can we have someone ask this question at BlizzCon and put them on the spot and see what their answer is? I would love to see this. You know, a Q&A that gets posted up to YouTube or something like that, or on DirecTV during the event. I would love to see this. What is their response? Quite frankly, after players have spent the better part of a decade putting up with this outdated system, which, by the way, is this anywhere still on the internet besides World of Warcraft now that File Planet's been shut down? Is there a queue system in use anywhere? I know there's queue systems offline in the offline world at like nightclubs and stuff with lines to get in and bouncers and stuff like that, but is any of this anywhere else on the internet? Anywhere? I think it's time this game's player base got some answers. So I'm going to break from my usual routine here, and I'm actually going to do a full-blown call to action on this audio commentary segment. Like it, share it, subscribe to this channel, spread it around social media. This sucker needs to get to Blizzard. And they need to respond. And they need to give the player base an answer. If this is such a bad idea, tell us why. Why isn't this feasible? And if it is feasible, what's the kind of ETA or timeline that players can expect this sort of thing to be implemented? Or is it going to take another game finally getting it right and dethroning this game, or being at least a stiff competitor to it, before these folks change their tune? That's my question, and I rest my case. Thank you for listening, everybody. Till next time, this is MultimediaJay signing off. Thanks for stopping by.